Can you please let mommy rest just one day? The girl asked her mom's boss. The little girl stood silently outside the glass office door, her tiny hands trembling as she held a crumpled drawing against her chest. Tears filled her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Inside that office sat the man who controlled her mother's future. Taking a deep breath, she knocked softly and whispered words that would change several lives forever. Can you please let mommy rest just one day? Before we begin this emotional story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe that kindness can change lives and that every hardworking person deserves a second chance. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to people around the world. Sophia Miller had spent the last 6 years surviving rather than living. Every morning before sunrise, she would quietly leave her tiny apartment while the city still slept. She worked as an assistant at one of the largest corporate companies in the city, owned by the successful and demanding CEO, Daniel Harrison. To everyone in the office, Sophia appeared strong, professional, and dependable. She never arrived late. She never complained. She never asked for favors. She completed tasks that often required 2 employees. Whenever someone needed help, Sophia was the first to offer assistance. What nobody knew was that every night she returned home completely exhausted, carrying a burden heavier than anyone could imagine. She was raising her 8-year-old daughter Lily completely alone. 3 years earlier, Sophia's husband had passed away unexpectedly after a sudden illness. The loss shattered her world. Not only did she lose the love of her life, but she also inherited thousands of dollars in medical debt. For months after his death, Sophia felt as if she was drowning. But every time she looked at little Lily, she found a reason to keep moving forward. Lily was the light that guided her through the darkest nights. The little girl never complained about their small apartment. She never complained about wearing hand-me-down clothes. She never complained when her mother missed school events because she was working overtime. Instead, Lily would smile and tell her mother everything was okay. The truth was far from okay. Sophia was exhausted. Years of non-stop work had begun taking a serious toll on her health. She survived on coffee, skipped meals, and slept only a few hours each night. Yet she kept pushing forward because she believed stopping even for a moment would cause everything to collapse. One rainy evening, Sophia arrived home looking paler than usual. Lily noticed immediately. Her mother's smile seemed forced. Her hands shook while preparing dinner. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. That night, while Lily pretended to sleep, she heard her mother crying quietly in the kitchen. It was the first time she had heard those heartbreaking sounds since her father's funeral. The next morning, Sophia nearly collapsed while helping Lily get ready for school. Though she managed to catch herself, the image terrified Lily. For the first time, the little girl became truly afraid. She realized her mother wasn't just tired. She was breaking. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel Harrison sat in his luxurious office overlooking the city skyline. At only 42 years old, he had built a business empire worth millions. Employees respected him. Competitors feared him. Investors admired him. Yet despite all his success, Daniel lived an empty life. Several years earlier, his marriage had ended. His relentless pursuit of work had cost him the people he loved most. His ex-wife moved across the country. His teenage son rarely spoke to him. Although Daniel had everything money could buy, he often sat alone in silence after work. But he ignored those feelings. Work was easier than facing loneliness. One afternoon, Sophia received another urgent project requiring weekend overtime. She wanted desperately to refuse. Her body ached. Her head pounded. She hadn't spent meaningful time with Lily in months. Yet fear won. She accepted the assignment. That weekend, while Sophia worked at the office, Lily stayed home with a neighbor. The little girl spent the day drawing pictures. In every drawing, her mother appeared smiling beneath bright sunshine. But as she colored, sadness filled her heart. She missed her mother. More importantly, she worried about her. The following Monday, everything changed. Sophia arrived at work feeling dizzy and weak. She pushed through meetings. She answered emails. She completed reports. Then suddenly, in the middle of the office, she collapsed. The entire floor froze. Employees rushed toward her. Someone called an ambulance. Daniel Harrison watched the scene unfold from nearby. For the first time, he truly noticed Sophia. Not as an employee. Not as an assistant. But as a human being. At the hospital, doctors delivered difficult news. Severe exhaustion. Stress-related complications. Dangerously high blood pressure. If she continued living this way, her condition would become much worse. The doctor strongly recommended immediate rest. Sophia nodded politely. But deep inside, panic consumed her. Rest meant missing work. Missing work meant risking her job. Risking her job meant risking everything. The next day, despite medical advice, Sophia returned to the office. Daniel noticed. He also noticed her struggling to stand. Yet before he could say anything, another unexpected visitor arrived. Little Lily. The receptionist had tried stopping her, but the determined child insisted she needed to speak with the CEO. Moments later, she stood outside Daniel's office holding a folded drawing. The same drawing she had carried for days. When Daniel invited her inside, she nervously approached his desk. Then she handed him the picture. It showed a smiling mother sleeping peacefully while a little girl sat beside her. Above the drawing were carefully written words. "My mommy needs rest." Daniel felt something tighten inside his chest. Then Lily spoke the sentence that would stay with him forever. She asked if her mother could rest for just one day. Not a vacation. Not a raise. Not special treatment. Just one day. One day without fear. One day without exhaustion. One day to breathe. Daniel looked into the child's hopeful eyes and suddenly saw something he had ignored for years. Behind every employee was a family. Behind every report was a person. Behind every deadline was a life. That evening, Daniel reviewed Sophia's employment file. What he discovered shocked him. Years of perfect attendance. Countless overtime hours. Exceptional performance reviews. No complaints. No requests. No recognition. The woman had given everything to the company. And the company had simply accepted it. The next morning, Sophia was called to Daniel's office. Fear gripped her immediately. She assumed she was being fired. Instead, Daniel handed her a document. Paid medical leave. Full salary. No conditions. No penalties. No risk to her position. Sophia stared at the paper in disbelief. For several moments, she couldn't speak. Then tears rolled down her cheeks. Not because of the leave itself. But because someone had finally noticed her pain. Someone had finally cared. Over the following weeks, Sophia remained home with Lily. For the first time in years, she slept properly. They shared breakfasts together. They walked through parks. They watched movies. They laughed. Slowly, her health began improving. Even more importantly, she began rediscovering happiness. Meanwhile, Daniel found himself thinking about Lily's drawing almost every day. The innocent request had awakened something inside him. He began visiting different departments, speaking directly with employees, and learning about their lives. He introduced new wellness programs. Flexible schedules. Family support policies. Mental health resources. The company culture gradually transformed. Months later, Sophia returned to work healthier and stronger than she had been in years. Employees welcomed her warmly. But the biggest surprise came during the annual company gathering. Standing before hundreds of employees, Daniel shared a story. Not about profits. Not about business growth. Not about success. He spoke about compassion. He spoke about people. And he spoke about a little girl whose courage reminded him what truly matters. The audience applauded. Sophia cried. Lily smiled proudly from the front row. Years later, people still talked about the day a little girl's simple request changed an entire company. Because sometimes heroes aren't powerful executives. Sometimes they aren't wealthy investors. Sometimes heroes are small children brave enough to speak when everyone else stays silent. And sometimes all it takes to change a life is one person willing to ask for kindness. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, what country are you watching from, and have you ever seen someone whose kindness changed a life? If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to support more emotional stories like this one. Your engagement helps these messages of hope reach people who may need them most. Thank you for watching, and may we never forget that behind every hardworking person is a human heart that deserves compassion, rest, and love.